Hi everyone, you're watching Good for the Game TV. I'm Brent Graham, and welcome to our first edition of a new rugby show, Use It or Lose It. It's going to be taking place every Monday night, probably. We'll just see how the dates work for everyone. Perhaps we'll move it to a Tuesday, generally at 9 o'clock. We're going to go out live because we want your comments in the live feed as well. Those of you who are regulars on the Good for the Game channel will know we tend to focus on the betting angle. We've got our flagship show, the Handicap Rugby Chat, that matters. That's every Thursday night at 9. This show is going to be more about the build-up to the Rugby World Cup and any major issues of interest, if you could say, on the rugby front that we want to have a look at. Before you do anything else, if you are new to our channel and you want to catch our videos, we also do golf betting previews for the majors. We're going to be doing cycling previews for the Giro, which one of our guests I know on the show enjoys as well. He'll be joining me for some of those. Then go below the video and hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, and you'll be notified of all of our videos. Well, we've got a couple of interesting topics to talk about tonight. I'll explain them in a minute or two. The one is around the Bok captaincy, and the other one I want to have a look at the back three of the Boks and see if we can reach some alignment on who should be in the starting 15. But first, let's introduce the panel. And I'm going to go to Cape Town, to my far right. And it's Sean, and he's known on Twitter as Judge Rugby, and I've been following him on Twitter for quite a while. And I must say, a prolific tweeter, but plenty of quality in his tweets. And great to have you on the opening show, Judge.
Excellent. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. I mean, just for people to find, your Twitter handle is actually @JudgeRugby.
That's correct.
And essentially, from what I can tell from your tweet, that's what you tweet about. You tweet about rugby.
Yeah, that's pretty much the be-all and end-all of it.
Pretty much the sum total. Excellent. We'll look forward to some of your opinions. I see you've actually been tweeting tonight on things like team selections and stuff as well. Let's go also down in the Cape near Romanus. He's got his YouTube channel, Unbiased Rugby. I've watched quite a few of his videos. He sometimes has his father-in-law in there with him. And it's good to welcome Donovan to the show. Donovan, welcome.
Oh, thanks for having me on the show.
Excellent. I'm sure you're looking forward to the Rugby World Cup, eh?
Big time. Not too long to go.
Not too long to go. Excellent. Well, Donovan's a big Blue Ball supporter, but we'll do him a favor and we won't talk about the Blue Balls too much tonight. And then for the Good for the Game regulars, you'll recognize the guy there in the middle of the screen. He's from George, and he loves his sports betting, he loves his cycling, and he loves his rugby. And it's Couch Critic. How are you, Couch?
How's it, Brent? I'm good, and it's nice to be here and nice to have an opportunity to talk about something else just than the betting, huh?
That's it, yes. At the end of the day, I'll always relate it to betting somehow. I mean, team selections and all of that can be related. But let's get straight into the topic, I guess the main topic of the show. And Couch, I'm going to start with you there. I know you write some columns for the Yellow Cap and that on their website. You also, of course, write for us on Good for the Game. But I saw some tweets, the Yellow Cap, sort of questioning an article that suggested that Siya Kolisi was sort of a given as captain. And he was sort of, I think, questioning it from the angle of, is Siya Kolisi, should he be the first choice in his position? And he took quite a lot of stick on Twitter for that. And, you know how these things can get out of hand on social media. But I thought it was worth discussing because at the end of the day, when you are picking a captain for a side, and of course he is the incumbent, there's a couple of angles here. Do you pick a leader and then pick the team around him? Or do you pick the person who's best in the position and then pick the captain? What are your views?
Brent, yes, I think I actually held off from getting too involved in Twitter because I think it's just, you can't use a few characters to try and get stuck into this topic. I think it's quite expansive. And as you say, I think you actually got to split it up there into two parts. And that is firstly, do you pick a leader first and foremost, or do you first worry about the combination of your loose trio and then move on to focusing, say, okay, this is our best 15 and now we pick a side. And then obviously also, this isn't just a normal test coming up. You're going to the World Cup, so there's also important factors to keep in mind in terms of, you're not just going to throw someone young or someone new into the fray. But yeah, I think perhaps the others can lead off with maybe their thoughts on what do they think about, do you pick a leader first? I mean, we've had success in the past in the World Cup going with Francois Pienaar and John Smith, people who they might not have actually been the first choice in their positions, but they were first and foremost picked as leaders. And then they pick the team around that. So maybe let's go for that one.
Yeah, Sean, so let me bring you in at this point. What are your thoughts on that? First of all, perhaps is Kolisi the number one pick in the position? And if he isn't, does he warrant it then on the basis of leadership?
Personally, I'm happy with him to be there. And I'm happy for him to captain us and captain us following through into the World Cup. So it's really not too much of a discussion on that end for me. I think I think what people also struggle to come to terms with is the way that he leads. He's is a different type of leader. He's happy for other guys to take ownership and to also lead with his core group of support within any which team. So you'll see guys a lot of times will be complaining that look, so and so is doing the talking. It's not Khaleesi. Where's our captain gone? I don't feel that's fair, and I feel like the game has got a bunch of leaders in it, and I think Khaleesi does get involved. There are certain things that he still needs to learn from a captaincy point of view. There's no doubt about it. But I think he's the right man for the job, and I don't think he's massively outplayed in terms of the position that he's covering. I don't think that it's a dead ringer that he can be replaced. So I think that the way we play with our loose trio, balance-wise, we probably got to tweak it a little bit. He's going to stay. We need to kind of deal with that.
Would you find place for Warren Whiteley then in the World Cup squad? Perhaps not then as a captain, but coming off the bench.
Yeah, I quite like Whiteley. I also quite like the idea of us having Dwayne Vermeulen and Whiteley in the squad. So we've got those 2-8 options because it does change the game up. It moves things around a little bit. I don't have an issue with Whiteley being there. I think Whiteley also, he'll comfortably fit into that leadership role, and he has been a Springbok captain before, so he's going to fit in there nicely. It's more about the balance side of things. So it's difficult. How do we want to work it with Dwayne there? But I like to talk squad sort of strength, and I definitely think like Whiteley and Vermeulen are 8s. I'm happy to go with them. I wouldn't mind seeing Marcel Coetzee get a look in. He can obviously play 6, 7 or 8, but he's in incredible form at the moment. So I think it is about the balance, and I would happily have Whiteley, Khaleesi, Vermeulen, the whole lot there.
Right, and Khaleesi as your captain there. And Donovan, let's go to you now. Do you see this as really something that for debate, or is it really perhaps just a storm in a teacup on Twitter there?
Personally, I think it's a bit of a storm in a teacup. I've got no problem with Sia being captain. Only really, coming back to what Sean was saying, that the only really other option would be maybe a Warren Whiteley as a captain, but then that also affects the 8. What kind of game plan does Rossi actually want to play at 8? So I really don't have a problem with it. A lot of people say he's not a traditional fetcher. There's a lot of things that he's lacking, but I think he seems to thrive under the pressure. And I like the fact that he actually shares responsibility with the players, because at the end of the day, you leave your line out calling to your lock, leave your leadership to Dwayne Vermeulen, leave everything to the back to say Billy. Not that I'm saying Billy will be in the back, but it's nice that he actually shares that kind of. He has a leadership group and he relies on that leadership group, and I think it's commendable. And
how important do you think it is? I mean, that a captain stays on the field for 80 minutes? Because I can think of quite a few examples where a captain does come off. I mean, Creevy at one point when he was captain, he never really lasted past the 60-minute mark. And I saw one of the criticisms about Khaleesi was, in the New Zealand test, he was off and then Whiteley was on. But it was also pointed out that when he came off, South Africa were leading the test. Is it important that your captain's there for 80 minutes? Or can we have a situation where we say we've got a great captain on the field in Khaleesi, and if he comes off and Whiteley happens to come on and take over, well, what a bonus. We've got 2 leaders.
I fully agree. I have no problem with them going off at 60 minutes and somebody else taking the leadership role. I think that's the great thing of having a leadership group, that you can have that continuity with your finishers at the end. So, yeah, look, at the end of the day, I was looking at some of the captains that are out there at the moment. Garada, he's going to come off at 60 minutes. Trying to think of the other hooker. Rory Best, he would come off at 60 minutes. So they have a continuity with their leadership group. So, yeah, if he comes off at 60 minutes and you bring up some kind of impact player for the last 20 minutes, then, yeah, I've got no problem with that.
John, what do you think of that? Do you like the idea of sort of 2 leaders, your overall captain, but someone who can take over from him?
I agree totally. Like, I don't have an issue with captains not lasting the full 80, especially in the role, in the loose forward role, where the guys really need to be hitting their straps and hitting it hard for the full 80. So if he's a bit tired and can't get on, then to take him off is not an issue at all. We've also got to look at player management. We've had guys. So this year, obviously, a World Cup year, everyone's quite focused on the fact that guys are getting breaks and stuff. But before that, if you look at the Beast and Sia, the guys are run hard, Super Rugby all the way through, all through tests and everything. So to give guys that extra 20 minutes, I don't have an issue. It's something that we need to learn to integrate into the squad with the players and the senior players and the guys to understand that, so we can start moving forward. We create succession planning, and it's something that we've lacked in South African rugby for way too long. We do have a leader, we absolutely have a captain, but you can't tell me that one guy leads the All Blacks. The All Blacks lead the All Blacks. Everyone knows what they're meant to do. You do have one person you've got to chat to, and every now and then your captain will go and calm one guy down. I think Sia's excellent at doing that, by the way. Specifically when it comes to Eben Etzebeth, I think they balance each other well. Eben can have his Bucky Sputter role, and Sia can calm him down. But I think as a whole, like, the whole team's got to take ownership, and we will have a captain, and he's not going to last a full 80, because worst case scenario, he gets injured halfway through the game, and then you all of a sudden sitting there and you don't really know what to do. We've got to have a plan for that.
Talking of injuries, I mean, Warren Whiteley, just to talk on him for a bit. I mean, one of the big problems he's had over the last few years is injuries. He was actually the Bok captain, and then he got injured. Does that play into Rassie Erasmus's mind? I mean, is it a reason to potentially leave Whiteley out the squad, or do you just take the fact that, well, he's fit now, we have to give him the benefit of the doubt?
I'd have Whiteley in the squad if he's fit, no doubt about it. I think what he brings to the squad as a whole, I think what he brings on the field is terribly important, and it's too important to not have. If you look at what he does to the Lions, if you look how different the Lions are, he really does bring that energy and that sort of gees into the Boks and any team that he plays for. And it rubs off on all the players. So if he's fit, he goes for me.
Couch, would you agree with that? And just on that note, I mean, if Whiteley's fit and he goes, the fact that he's potentially playing off the bench a bit may actually not be a bad thing, and that he's exposed in a way to less minutes on the field, less time to get injured, if I can put it that way. But at the same time, we still get the benefit of his leadership.
Brent, the only issue for me is with the whole World Cup squad is how your balance is going to be in terms of having like-for-like replacements. So, you know, that was my issue with the Khaleesi one as well. As soon as Dwayne Vermeulen isn't there, everything's buggered there in terms of the whole setup. Because, I mean, Dwayne covers almost as an extra fetcher as well. He does a little bit of work there. So as soon as you lose him and you get a Warren Whiteley in there playing at 8 or having to start at 8, then the whole setup is different. You know, then you've got a looser playing Khaleesi, you've got a looser playing Warren Whiteley, and you don't quite have the enforcer. I know you've got Eben and probably whoever's going to be playing 7, but it's just, I mean, we got to know this now. Our fact is we got to be physical, and that's our game plan. So I just think that that's where the balance comes in terms of you need a backup that's going to be like for like. And I think that's where Rassie maybe missed the opportunity to get a different 8-man involved and trying to get someone that's going to play the same style as Dwayne. Now he's pretty much put all his chips into one basket, and he said Dwayne Vermeulen is going to be the number 8, and we've got nothing else. And then obviously Whiteley, you know, he does bring a spark when he comes on, but I'm not going to say he's not exactly Adi Sevilla for me in terms of coming on and making the impact. But then again, you get the trade-off of he's going to have a leadership role coming on. So that way it does work for you. But again, to come back to the whole combination, as I said, that's a little bit of a problem with Khaleesi not being a fetcher. You know, you've got out and out guys, so there aren't a lot of competition, or isn't a lot of competition in South Africa at the moment. You know, you've got Jaco Kriel was there and thereabouts, but again, he wasn't really outright fetching, was more Adi Sevilla combination kind of player. Marcel Coetzee is probably the best we did have around, and then Marco van Staden, he just hasn't played enough rugby and he isn't settled into the system. So the whole argument for me in terms of Khaleesi as a 6 is we don't really have a lot of other options. So I mean, to me, Khaleesi has to go as the starting number 6, and it's fine in the setup that we have there, but you've got to have another backup 6 in any case. Obviously, I'd like a Marcel Coetzee, but probably not going to happen. Maybe Marco van Staden was part of the squad, but again, we don't know what's going to happen there. And then the physical number 7, because it's just, we put a lot of emphasis on the 7 because we're playing Khaleesi. So it's important that your 7 does a great job. And luckily, Pieter Steph really has stepped up to the plate. So in that way, it's good. And then the other argument I just wanted to throw in there is that we said there's a lot of competition at 6, and then in terms of captaincy, everyone said Warren Whiteley is great, and that's true. I love the way, the spirit in which he plays, and I think people follow him. But in terms of game plan and stuff like that, the Lions have got a simple game plan, and it's plan A, and there is no plan B. It's never asked for Warren Whiteley to say, listen, chaps, let's move to a plan B, let's kick more. Or when it comes to penalties, when are we going to go for goal? There just isn't that consideration, because it's just kick for the corner and run everything. So you still have to wonder, how good is Warren Whiteley tactically? I know he's a great leader in terms of the person that he is, but in terms of that decision making, is he really that much better than Siya Kolisi? But I must say there is a bit of a concern for me with too many cooks in the kitchen there when it comes to decision making. You get a Dwayne Vermeulen and Eben Etzebeth all in Kolisi's ear and there. That's the only little issue I have, where he's got to say, listen, chaps, I'm the one making the decision. Yeah, yes, I can come and consult you, but let me make the ultimate calls. And that's where hopefully Hussey and the guys will tell him, listen, you are our captain. I mean, in any case, it's World Cup year. We can't go in with a new captain now. You've got the setup. This is the way it's going to be, and there's just no argument for me in terms of going away from Kolisi.
All right. Well, it seems like we're all unanimous. I'm in agreement with you guys as well. I've got no issue with Kolisi at 6, and certainly enjoy him as captain. Donovan, anything to add before we move on to the back three?
Actually, no. I was just glad that you mentioned Peter Steff at 7, because that's the one player I wouldn't change straight off the bat. So, because a lot of talk about the position number 8, and you say, well, you can move Dwayne Vermeulen to 7, and you're going, well, no, you can't really, because Peter Steff's at 7. So yeah, it's quite a conundrum at the back 3. It's actually the back row.
Not a bad problem to have for the
coach. No, not a bad problem at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wouldn't want to be rusty at the moment to make those kind of decisions, because it does affect the game plan. You play a completely different kind of game plan with Warren than you do with Dwayne. So yeah, but I honestly feel I don't really see Warren as an impact player. I see him more as a starter as opposed to a finisher. I see more Dwayne Vermeulen as a finisher, but he's great through the whole game in any case. But if I had to have both of them, I'd have Dwayne finishing the game. Sometimes you just need that person who just needs to get those hard yards in the last 20 minutes of the game, and I think he's better at that than Warren. But that's just my opinion.
That's a good point. I haven't actually heard much. Most people are thinking of Vermeulen starting and Whiteley coming on as the impact player. But interesting to hear the other point of view. And certainly Vermeulen with his power would make quite a big difference. I've got to ask you, Donovan, did you enjoy the Vermeulen try over the weekend, the intercept?
Oh, look, there's nothing more impressive than an intercept by a back, running 84 meters and then doing a handoff. It was pretty special. It was nice with the little quick goose step with his feet, and then he went over the line. It's a special moment for a forward.
It certainly was. I mean, there was more. It was almost a stationary handoff. He almost stopped, took the time to hand the guy off, and then carried on and scored. So it really was good to watch. So yeah, I think we probably blessed with quite a lot of depth in that department. So yeah, this wasn't. I suspected it wouldn't be a huge debate around the captaincy. I think we're all pretty much in agreement on that one. So we've got the right captain. We've got some excellent loose forward resources to choose from. Sorry, Sean.
I just wanted to quickly jump in on the Whiteley, the discussion we had in terms of Vermeulen finishing the game and Whiteley sort of playing and starting. They're two very different 8s as well. And that's the thing is Vermeulen's really tight and he's really robust and he's really hard, where Whiteley really excels almost playing in the outside back role. So that role that Kieran Reid played before Dane Coles came into the mix, where he was very wide and he was drawing and playing and stuff, because Whiteley's a ball player, there's no doubt about it. And I think when Whiteley starts, he needs to fulfill that really tight, heavy ball carrying, heavy traffic role, which is not his best suited space in a Springbok jersey. So it's an interesting one. Like, ideally, I agree totally. Imagine Dwayne Vermeulen with 20 minutes, just like red rag to a bull, just going bedorned and smashing people would be incredible. But again, how the balance works and everything is key. And I think Peter Steph du Toit on 7 has been good. Like, I wasn't a fan of it to start, because I thought he offered more playing lock, and he really has turned it up at 7 and really dominating. So But I still think he will offer a hell of a lot at lock if we have to move him in there and push someone else. Kutsia could play 7 as well. I mean, Kutsia, Vermeulen and Khaleesi as your loose trio would be very interesting. There's 2 fetchers there, 3 fetchers there, and 2 massive ball carriers. But I agree, in terms of what Rusty's got to do and the decisions he's got to make, must be a bit hair-raising for him.
You're interesting. Sorry, go for it, Couch.
Brent, just from me, I think at the moment, I mean, as I said, he's a bit lightly run at the moment, but the best option is a Marco van Staden for me, or for a guy that can play off the bench, because I think he can have the same kind of robust impact, and the option that you have with him is that he can cover both 6 and 8. Obviously, you'd have him probably trying to play a little bit more rugby at 8 to really get that under the belt if you are going to use him like that. But to me, I agree actually that Whiteley is great for having that leadership option, but I'd like a player that gives a little bit more spark and a little bit more impact. I was always fond of Jaco Kriel, but I mean, I haven't been able to monitor him over there, so he was the same as option there. He could have played 8, 6 or 7 probably if you really forced him. But just in terms of a starting at the moment, as Donovan said as well, I mean, you can't go messing around with Peter Steff the toy at 7, and I definitely won't mess around with Dwayne at 8, because I mean, you need that physicality to set the platform up front to start with, and it just, I don't think it'll work, as you guys have said, Sean has said, with Warren Whiteley playing 8. It's just not, it's a completely different game, and I think it's also different to what Rassie wants to play.
Right, so let's move on then, if no one's going to get anything else to add on the loose forwards there, because I want to talk about the back 3. I think there's going to be some quite interesting chat, particularly perhaps around the fullback position. And Sean, I'll start with you. Let's start with the 15. I've seen a lot of chat on Twitter. People are starting to list their ideal starting teams. The name I guess I've seen most of all is someone like Willie Leroux at 15. But there's plenty of other names being thrown into the mix, isn't there?
Yeah, I'll say it's not very popular, but Willie Leroux is really not having a great season. He's I had a look at his stats last night for the first time in a while, just because someone was mentioning to me that he's one of the leading players in terms of try assists on international level. But he also is tackling under 50% in Premiership rugby this year, and that's at fullback. He's got more than half of his try assists and line breaks from last season. And last season when he was at Wasps, he was cooking. And when he came to the Boks, he was still blowing hot and cold. Like he really is. Everyone wants the X factor, and everyone wants him to be playing because he could maybe do something. The problem is as a backline player, but specifically with Willie Leroux, when he forces things, he really does push it a little bit, and he does throw some wayward passes and put guys under pressure. So I'm struggling a little bit with his selection. He is going, I know he's our first choice 15. Everyone's saying, it's okay. He'll come right under Rassie, and for the Springboks, he'll be different. He's not having a great time at the Wasps. But if you're going to have that conversation with me, then have that conversation about other players as well. We need to, who are we all going to give leeway to? So for me, Cheslin Kolbe's a shoo-in in the Springbok squad, and he could potentially play 15. Well, not potentially, he can play 15. Whether he'll play Springbok 15, I'm not sure. Damien Willemse hasn't impressed me at 15 this year. He really looked disinterested in the game on Saturday. He really wasn't handy. When he moved to 10, his whole life changed when he moved to 10 on Saturday. So that was quite weird and very interesting to see. In terms of other 15s, I think Dylan Lates is, if we're going to look, I think Dylan Lates is in the better form than he has been in a while. I think he's quite solid. I think he fulfills that Willie Leroux style role. He can fill in at 15, at 10. He's got a good boot. He's good under the high ball. And then Gelant, I'm still waiting on a little bit more from him. A couple more games to come back from injury. And Kerwin Bosch, I wouldn't send him to the World Cup right now, no. So, my squad guys, I want to make sure that if I pick someone in the squad, that if I start him, I'm comfortable with him being there. Then Kerwin Bosch, not right now, and purely because I think the other guys are just a little bit better and a little bit ahead of him at the moment from the Springbok pecking order point of view.
So of those guys you mentioned, if we were playing a World Cup final tomorrow, who would you put your faith in then as the starting fullback?
That's a tough one because we definitely have a few games to gauge a few things and see how Willie le Roux's doing. But right now, I would probably have Ches and Colby at 15. I think Colby at 15 is a better shot. I think Willemse might not necessarily be the worst thing in the world at 15 and then have Colby on the wing. But yeah, I think it's a bit difficult for me to answer, but I'd say Ches and Colby at 15.
So one of those situations where it's quite nice that we got a bit of time to probably assess that through the
absolutely
rugby championship.
We'll know after the rugby championship. We'll have a much better idea of who we want to play where, obviously. But right now it's a tough one. But form-wise, Ches and Colby's the form back three player outside back we have without a shadow of a doubt.
Donovan, over to you now. There's no doubt that Colby's been playing some brilliant rugby, and I think Sean's mentioned probably most of the names, if not all of them, potentially in contention for the 15 jersey. What about you? You in the Willie le Roux camp, or are you also looking beyond it?
I really haven't been impressed with Willie's form this year at all. He seems. I watched him playing last night, and he just seems completely disinterested in what's happening around him. And you can say a lot of things. He is leaving, and he's going through to Japan, but he's still a professional. But I really haven't been impressed with his form. I think Ches and Colby is just magnificent. I think he ticks a lot of boxes. Watching him play for Toulouse. That's Toulouse, yeah. He's sublime, and he's a real X-factor player. Whereas Willie le Roux, he always reminds me of like a Quade Cooper. I'm not saying that he is Quade Cooper, but it's just like one day he's just the most magnificent player, and then the next game you just think, what the hell? What's happening? Looking at Damon Willemse, I agree with Sean. I prefer him at 10 and then at 15. Warwick Gelant, I love the Bulls, but for me, Warwick Gelant he just hasn't reached that point where he started trusting the players around him. So it's always a chip, it's a kick, and he just needs to. I think he just needs a bit more time. But yeah, I still think. From an experience point of view, I still think Willie will be in the squad, without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah. But yeah, it's exactly the same as Sean. If I had to pick tomorrow, I'd say Cheslin at 15.
Yeah, the thing about Willie, as you say, and you put him in the Quade Cooper mold, and I pretty much agree with you there. It's just, in that pressure situation in a World Cup final, you've just got a bit of a bad feeling about it, that the thing he's going to try may not come off. So yeah, Colby, certainly the way he's playing at the moment, must be knocking on the door pretty hard. Katch, you got anyone else for us that you want to put in there, or are you in agreement with the guys?
I just think that, again, you got to look at the style that Rassie Erasmus wants from it, and Colby is going to be in the squad, but he's there as a bench player, and he could help out on the wing, but he's not there as a starting fullback. I don't think he doesn't offer the same. He wants a guy who can control the game from the back. Colby doesn't have that same boot. I know he can kick, but he's not a distance kicker, a guy who plays fly off or could play fire off, and that's where I think Damian Willemse, the liking for Damian Willemse is as well. He's an exact like for like to Willie. He can come in and be a little bit creative, and actually is the same Quade Cooper kind of guy as well. You just can't trust him, and it's not from game to game. I think it's from minute to minute that you don't know what he's going to do. One moment sublime and one moment shocking. So it's tough on that end. And the big thing with the South African pattern, or actually their setup, is just that you need that kind of player at fullback, as even Colby is as well, because we don't have a lot of creativity on the inside. We need to have an X-factor player, and that's the same as Warwick does for the Bulls. He comes in third, fourth phase, and he plays much closer, as he did at Otanikwa. Comes in at 12 and makes some decisions and get some creativity going, and that's something that South Africa sorely needs to break down defenses, and that is where that X-factor fullback comes in. But I'd probably said I actually think Warwick was very unlucky with the injury. I think he was a shoe-in to be the starting fullback last season. I think it would have been a different story. He would have had 6, 7, 8 caps by now, in the Rassie mold, in the Rassie setup, and then I think we wouldn't have been having this conversation. You would think he would have been knuckled down as the starting fullback. But now, again, it's World Cup year, and you guys say rugby championship, but it's just 3 games this season. So it's not like, they're going to be experiments. I don't think he's going to even play Colby at fullback there. He's going to have him on the bench. He's going to start with Willie and just try and fine-tune a few things. So it's not really like a Warwick can really play himself in there, or Damian Willems. So I think the squad is pretty settled there in terms of who he wants. Unfortunately, that is the case. And in the greater squad, I love Dylan Lates. That's actually, to me, instead of a Damian Willems, I'd go Lates because he's the same kind of player and he comes with experience. Obviously, he doesn't quite have the 10 kicking, but he does play a little bit of 10. He started playing 10, so he's got that kind of intuition as a distributor as well. And the same as Warwick, he comes in third, fourth phase and creates things. And I just think he's at that stage now like a good batsman. He just understands his game and he understands what he's doing. And I'd like, the big thing for us is intellectual property and making good decisions. And I think Dylan Lates is now there where he's actually a mature player, and I'd love to see him part of the squad. But yes, it's probably Willie to start at the moment.
So you got Willie to start. We've generally got Colby from Willie, but you reckon Willie will probably get the nod there. I'm going to reserve judgment on that one for now. I'll take the benefit of being the host of the show and not make a comment there. Let's move on to 14. And Donovan, I'll start with you on the right wing. Who are your contenders?
Trying to remember which one's the right wing. I'm trying to remember who plays in what position. So I'm thinking.
Only in Corsi. Only in Corsi.
Yeah, that's it. Okay. I've got the two in my head, and because I'm watching the field and I'm looking at it, I was going, I've got Mpimpi on this side, I've got Sabu and Corsi on that side. I'm going, okay, now I understand. Okay. So look, looking at who's on form, I'd probably go with Sabu and Corsi. He seems to be getting back into form after the long injury, but yeah, that's the only player I could think of on that side. On the 11 side, I've got a lot more options, but on 14, I only had Sabu.
Okay, well,
I can't really offer much more than that.
No, that's fine. We'll come back to the 11 because I think there'll be a bit more discussion around that. Couch, you nodding your head there. Also, Sabu and Corsi for you.
Definitely, Brent. He brings quite a bit of X factor, but he's got some pace. He's got a step and he's got a little bit of size, which is obviously always good when you've got that kind of package and it's in a little bit a bigger unit, then it's good. And I think he's growing under the high ball as well. So I think he's a very good option. And then you've also got Colby, who's definitely going to be in the squad to cover as a second right wing. And I don't think you really need to go any further than that.
He's certainly looking like a banker. Sean, you're nodding your head there. Are you in agreement?
Yeah, I am. Last year, so 2 years ago, Sabu and Corsi, when he really sort of made his name at the Sharks, was playing left wing, and he's an incredible left wing. And they moved him to right, and he's sorted himself out, and he's growing on me on right wing. But I still look at him as a left wing, so it's quite a tough one. But he's definitely the premier right wing that we have at the moment. I think with our wingers in the Springboks side shooting up to make tackles, I don't think that's an individual trait. I think it's a team space and a team thing that they're doing. So they obviously get picked a lot. If they make a miss doing it, then it's their fault. So that's a bit of something that's like often landed on the individuals. But yeah, Sabu, I'm happy with Sabu and Corsi.
Yeah, I must say, his injury was mentioned. Before he was injured, I thought he was an absolute good thing. And when he came back, like most people coming back from injury, he sort of took a little bit of a while to get going. But in recent weeks, for me, he's also just stamped his authority there. And looking around Twitter, guys naming their selections, I don't think you're going to find many people going beyond him in the 14 jersey. But Sean, let's stay with you then for the 11 jersey, because perhaps a little bit more competitive. You've got the Mpimbi there and then Deante as well. Anyone else we can throw in?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Mpimpi is playing really good rugby. I struggle with his fitness and not more that he's injury prone. He's like Whiteley, like he plays one game on and then he's off for a game or two, which is a bit of a struggle for me. He's one of the deadliest finishers in the game. I was a bit apprehensive about his defensive abilities, but the last time he played for the Springboks, he hardly did any attacking and did all the defending and really impressed. So, I think it's difficult to get past him. I would start him at 11. Aphiwe Deante, he's blowing a bit cold at the moment. I would definitely have him in the squad and I definitely have him there. I definitely want him to have a part of the game, whether it's off the bench or whether he starts and plays maybe 60 or so. But I definitely feel that he needs to start the game. That's a compromise that we're having with a player that We know he's got the goods. He performs well in he's only got good feelings in a Springbok jersey. He's worked really hard, and I think he needs to be there. But for now, my Pimpy starts.
Right, Couch.
Yeah, my Pimpy has been in really good form, and he's got that eye for the try line. And as Sean says, I don't think there's a finisher that's better than him at the moment, or sharper than him. But I just think he's a guy who comes from pretty much outside the squad and outside the system, and I don't think Rassi's going to have faith in someone new and really getting them into that setup the same way he's had faith with Dayanti. I think he's gonna stick with him, and I actually think it's the right way to go. He was the World Young Player of the Year, so it's not like you can just turn on that. You've got to go there, and then with that X factor and that power and that pace, I'm sure it's been a struggling Lions team. So none of the outside backs have been in the same nick they were last season, because they just haven't had the same kind of ball to run with and the same opportunities. So I'm sure in a different setup. Not that I'm saying you can really have a go in the Springbok setup, but I mean, at least he's going to have the coaches and the players around him that he's used to in that thing. So I think they'll stick to the Dayanti, and I think it's the right way to go. And then again, I've said I want him in the squad, and I'll have Dylan Lates as my backup. I wouldn't take him Pimpy because he can't really back up in any other position. So I'll have Dylan Lates there. Again, he's just a clever player. He's not too slow like SP Mare, so I think I can still carry him there. And he's not the worst defender. I know some people have a few issues with him, but I think he covers his line, especially on cover defense, quite well. And yeah, he's also very good under the high ball, actually, since he has been playing quite a bit of fullback, and he's quite clever with his boots. So I like Lates to do the covering there.
So you're certainly looking for Lates to be in that squad by the looks of things there, Catch. Over to Donovan on this one. I must say, just Donovan, before I come into you, Dayanti for me, the pick there at 11, I do like him. I agree he hasn't been at his best this season, but I would keep the faith with him in the 11 jersey. What are you thinking?
I agree with what Heinz said there fully. I don't think Dayanti's has been getting good ball. And I think with somebody like Arm, just feeding him, giving him the right kind of ball, maybe he'll step up but yeah, I've really liked the way that Mpipi's playing. I think he's really stepped up this year. He just seems to be at the right place at the right time to catch that ball, and that's what you want. You want a finisher, and he's doing it right. Dylan Lates, I've liked his form for the last couple of games. I think he's really getting back into his stride, but I don't know. I just feel, look at that last couple of years when he was under, I can't even remember the coach's name now. We lost 57-0. That I just want to see him play a bit more, and maybe play a championship game or a rugby championship game, just to see him step up to that level. Because I saw him playing there, and he just didn't impress. He just didn't step up. So maybe playing one or two rugby championship games, and then I'll say, then if he performs in those games, and I say, okay, he's assured, because he covers almost all the positions in the back. I'm gonna go against the grain. I'd probably on absolute just form from Super Rugby, I'd choose Mpipi. Just on form.
Okay, so we're split there. I think 2-2 on that one. But I think generally speaking, the back three, if I look at it, there's a couple of decisions to be made, but there's not that many names that we threw about, and considering there were three positions we were discussing, there's probably sort of five contenders really for those three positions, 5 or 6 contenders. So perhaps not as big a headache for Rassie as he will have with some of his other decisions. But guys, thanks very much. Has anyone got anything they want to add on the back three before we knock off? Couch, scratching your chin?
No, I just say, my starting would be Willie Nkosi, Dayanti, and then Colby starting the game, and playing off the bench in my starting 23, and then in the squad, obviously I'll have Lates, and if we're not going to take the cover for fullback, I'm actually going to have a tough time including Cohen Bosch or Damian Willems. So I think they probably both have big futures, but for me, it's just too soon. I can't go with the risk of a Damian Willems at this stage. I think you've got to go now for, okay, he isn't new in the system, but I just think you've got to go for steady and guys who can get the job done.
Excellent. And guys, what I'm going to do to end off with is it's quite a way out till the World Cup still, but I'm interested to know who you're tipping to actually win the tournament, who the big runners are. So let's start with Sean there. Sean, would you be putting your money down on South Africa? They're about the 8-1 mark, or do you think it's going to be a Northern Hemisphere or New Zealand?
You can't write the Kiwis off, but so for me, New Zealand, Ireland, and I think Wales and England and us. I think that's kind of roughly where it's going to be. It's really difficult. It's really difficult to pick it between Ireland, between the Northern Hemisphere side and the Kiwis. But I think in a World Cup game, I think the All Blacks have the mental edge on most people, and I think they would probably take it away. So three on the trot for the Kiwis. Right,
and Couch, I'll mention the odds here because I know you're a betting man. They're 13-10. Just had a look at sports betting side. We've got 5-1 England, I think 7-1 Ireland, 8-1 South Africa. Where's the value there for you?
I was just going to say, Brent, you didn't ask me in terms of the value. So just in terms of who I think is going to win, I think the winner between New Zealand and England semi-final wins the competition. And obviously then I've got to go for England as the better value play. But I think New Zealand have one last hurrah in them if that main squad stays fit and they go into that final and semi-final with Brodie Retallick, Kieran Reid, Bowden Barrett, then they're going to get the job done, I reckon.
Right, and let's go over to Donovan. And Donovan, the Blue Bulls cannot win the World Cup. I just want to point that out.
No, look, I honestly believe it's going to come down to the first game between South Africa and New Zealand, and whoever wins that game would have an easier run through to the final than the team that loses. So I predict South Africa will win that game and we'll win the World Cup. I'm saying it now without a shadow of a doubt. I just feel we have the 31 or 35 players to make up a squad. Yes, we don't have the same kind of depth that New Zealand has, where they've got fly-offs or first 10s, then they've got like 20 they can choose from. We don't. But I just have a good feeling, and I think it's going to come down to that first game.
Yeah, that first game is going to be absolutely crucial. One thing for me when I look at the Southern Hemisphere teams versus the North at the moment, it just seems that everything in the Northern Hemisphere at the moment, Donovan, is so professional. The way these guys are going through, it looks like to me every little part of the game is thought out. And I actually just get the feeling
Hello?
Yeah, I think Brent went
in the quarters.
Okay.
So that's going to be a killer.
Brent, we lost you there, eh?
Oh, did you lose me? Sorry, my Wi-Fi go down. No, I was just making the. Am I back, Han?
Yeah.
I'm back. No, I was just making the point that the Northern Hemisphere game just seems so professional. So I'm actually leaning towards a Northern Hemisphere team winning. And for me, the Southern Hemisphere's only real hope, I must be honest, I think are the All Blacks. I think we're gonna battle to get out of the quarters. I think we will lose against New Zealand in the opener, and then I suspect that Ireland are gonna beat us in the quarterfinals. But I suppose we got plenty of time to decide on that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of one thing. I watch a lot of Premiership rugby, and the one thing that impresses me the most about Northern Hemisphere rugby is, geez, they're patient. They really don't mind playing 40 phases and then just grinding out and scoring. And if you look at most of the games that have been played against New Zealand and New Zealand sides, a lot of them it's about grinding it out. And that's the one thing that I find, and it was quite amazing. There was an interview with Skulk Brits, and he was saying he wished he'd actually gone to the Northern Hemisphere earlier in his career, because he would have learned a hell of a lot more about scrumming, and that's what you learn up north. And I'm seriously impressed just with their patience. Not yes, they've got great skills, but it's just their patience. They don't mind actually just grinding it out, and I think that goes a long way nowadays.
But I think that's the big thing. That's a big thing as well, Donovan, is that, as you say, it's almost like week in and week out they play finals type of rugby. And that's the difference, with a New Zealand team. It's all impressive in terms of their skill, and they entertain. But often when it comes down, yes, they've got those championship minutes in them, and that's probably what makes New Zealand better than the Springboks for me, is that they can grind it back to that second gear and really grunt it out. But your English, Welsh, especially, Wales have shown it now in the Six Nations. They were just able to grind out victories when the other guys are still, you're impressed with some of the skill that England can bring to the party, and we know what Ireland can do when they hit their straps, but it's just, Wales were ready to get down and dirty, almost like, they do it every other week. So it's not a problem for them to transition to semi-finals and finals type of rugby.
I think the big thing behind that is the Six Nations has only had the bonus points in for 2 seasons now. So they understand the value of 3 points. We've forgotten that. The irony is New Zealand haven't forgotten about that. They have the ability to play really hard working rugby and grind it out. They've got the patience to go 40 phases. Australia, South Africa, we don't. We after 12, 13 phases, we want to send a skip pass because there's got to be someone out there that can do something. Where Ireland will wait 6 minutes and work for 3 points. We can't. And that's a maturity and a patience thing. And that's where Northern Hemisphere win. But playing in Japan, I reckon the games are going to be pretty quick, and that falls all too nicely into a certain side's hands.
Yeah.
I think we might have to change the captaincy topic, because don't worry, Pollard knows the value of 3 points.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And just talking about Japan, I mean, you guys all know Oracle Rugby. He stopped his rugby channel now, but the last time I spoke to him, he was planning to be in Japan to watch the games. I don't know if he spoke to any of you guys about that. He was hoping to go over there, but I'm not sure if he still is, because he ran into a bit of a bad run on the betting front there, so he may have had to postpone that. It'll be great if we have someone over there that we can cross over and get some live reports from.
I actually might have a mate over there, so that might be a shout. I think he's going. Well, I do have a mate that is going, and I think he's going over for the first 3 of our pool games, if I'm not mistaken. So
Okay.
I'll be in touch. I'll give him a shout tomorrow and find out if he's willing to have a quick chat with us. He might be fueled with a few beers.
Yeah, I was going to say, we'll have to see what time we catch him. But guys, thanks very much for joining us on the first Use It or Lose It. Certainly, I think as the World Cup comes, lots to talk about. We obviously can get into all of the other positions as well, but really appreciate it. Sean, thanks for coming on the show.
Excellent, Jens. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Excellent. And you can find Sean on Judge Rugby on Twitter. And then we got Donovan Unbiased Rugby. That's your handle on Twitter. Although I think you're known as something else on Twitter there. Although if you type Unbiased Rugby, I found you.
I'm quite a Luddite, so I'm Twitter just seems like modern tech to me, So yeah, I'm really, really bad at it. So it's just it's like an afterthought. But
so the best place to find you is YouTube and look for Unbiased Rugby.
Yeah, just go to YouTube and you'll find me there. The most unbiased channel on YouTube.
That's it. And then Couch Critic, you can find him on the Yellow Cap. You can find him on Twitter. And you can also find him. Well, you can't find you on Twitter under Couch Critic anymore because you got banned from Twitter, didn't you?
Oh, nice, BG. Thanks for throwing that in there. Don't worry, it's still Couch Critic. I just think I threw the HD to the front or the back now. I can't remember.
Well, you went through the whole show without offending anyone. I'm quite impressed. But you can also see his articles on goodforthegame.co.za. I see you getting lots of compliments for your weekly column post-match scuffle this week. Guys, thanks very much. Thanks to anyone who did watch live. I think most of you were watching the Manchester City match tonight, but hopefully we'll build the following up as we go along. Thanks, guys. And remember, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, pop down below, hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you Thursday night, 9 o'clock for the handicap.